Hello and welcome to Raising Our Voices. Today we're talking about abuse in care and abuse in general when it comes to people with disabilities and where they live, who they're with, that sort of stuff. So we just want to give a little bit of a pre-warn that some of the stuff we talk about on today's episode can be a bit iffy. And if you don't want to listen to it, just turn your radio down. And if you need to speak to anybody after listening to these stories, you can call Beyond Blue on 1300 224 636, or you can call Lifeline on 13 11 14. Hi Luke, how are you today?
Hi Ariane. It's great to be here. Thank you very much.
That's cool. We're glad to have you. So basically we're going to be talking about the inquiry into abuse in care today, and you did a little bit of research last night.
Yeah, I did a little bit of research. I haven't done a lot because I've been that busy, and then I realised, I better have a look at some of my notes and that. Yeah,
Gotta do that.
Yeah.
So, what did you find out?
I found out that it's a big inquiry, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, it's just been, the report has just been released by the government.
Yeah.
And there's been a few services that have been up with the up in front of the inquiry. I don't know exactly how many, but I think there's a lot that have been that have been in front of the inquiry. So yeah,
Challenged on what they do.
Yeah, and I think it's important that all services are challenged on a few things, because this subject, it brings a lot of it's a very, very important issue. It's a very important thing.
And it's a very emotional thing, and people
absolutely.
should be able to be held to account for their own actions.
Absolutely.
So can you, was there any information on exactly which organisations were put up?
No, there wasn't. There wasn't many, but I think, I'm not 100% sure, so I'm not going to say their name because I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah.
But I think I know one that was put up.
Cool.
But again, I'm not prepared to say because I'm not 100%
Yeah,
sure.
well, we don't want a defamation case.
Exactly.
Thank you. We highly support this this initiative at Raising Our Voices. It's been too long coming. Now, just on the basis of some of the work you do, you work for Valid.
Yeah, or volunteer for Valid.
Yeah,
Yep.
You've done some work in the past when it comes to shutting down institutions.
Yes.
Can you tell us a bit about that and some of the stories you heard?
Well, just not with not with Valid, but also just around the traps. A lot of organisations have been. A lot of organisations I support and volunteer for have been connected with this, and I think it's a very important issue. But there's a lot of sort of not fear, but I think a lot of people don't want to, especially people with disabilities, sometimes they're afraid to speak up, and I think it's important that we sort of say, it's all right to say that if you've been abused or you're in trouble or whatever, it's all right to tell someone.
Or you've been hurt in any way,
Yeah, that's right.
That's right. And I was made aware of this story, and I'm not sure whether you're aware of this. The other day, there was this. My sister was watching this video about this lady whose father was quite elderly, and she knew he was being abused by this nurse at his care home. And what was happening was she ended up, because they wouldn't do anything about it, having to actually put a camera in her father's room. And she filmed this guy essentially trying to suffocate her dad.
Yeah, it's a very, very bad, it's a very, very sad story.
He only served 2 weeks of a 10-month sentence after being found guilty of attempted murder. So it's like, it's just so wrong that, you know, and then that the home says, oh no, we weren't made aware that there was any complaint against this staff member before this came out. And she's like, I've complained several times.
Yeah.
And they haven't done anything about it.
Yeah, and I think, you know, this inquiry is fantastic because it is needed within the disability sector.
Oh, it's way needed. Like, there are so many people in CRUs and care homes.
Care homes and even day programs.
Programs that are just not being treated correctly and not being treated like people. They're just sort of being treated like animals. And it's not cool. And when we talk about abuse in care, we're not just talking homes or day services or anything. We're talking schools. I've heard of children in special schools who are autistic being locked in cages.
Yeah.
I've seen people being tied to chairs.
Yeah.
At a school that I went to, I've seen deaf kids being sworn at.
Yeah.
And because they can't understand, then that's fine. And we'll just bang on the table to try and get their attention because they can feel the vibration. No, you can't just do that.
No, you can't.
And then when I tried to speak up against it, they're like, oh, we can't put that complaint through because you're not the person it's actually happening to. And I'm like, yeah, but the people that it's happening to can't speak for themselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've heard of situations where people, and I know the stories that you're referring to, and because they were well publicised at the time, and I've heard of people being dragged across floors in care homes and CIUs, and so it's not. It is a big issue. It is. And I think that the important thing is that people realise that it's okay to speak up about it.
It's okay to complain and to prosecute as well because people are scared of going to court and pursuing prosecution. And when we talk about these sorts of things, Raising Our Voices is done through MIDA, which is an advocacy organisation that advocates for people in, community housing and in that sort of care, and they get a lot of abuse cases like these, and they are outstanding in the way that they deal with them. So, guys, if you're listening and you need to get in touch with a place like Amida, go to the Raising Our Voices Facebook page, hit us up, send us a message, we'll send you the details.
Yeah, it's it's a fantastic organisation. It's really even Raising Our Voices, the radio show. I mean,
the one that we're on right now.
Yeah, the one we're on right now. I think, it's a really good for the community in general, not just the disability community, to realise that, just because you've got a disability, it can happen. Just because it can happen to anybody. It can happen to a person with a disability. It can happen to a person without a disability. And I think it's important that
Community awareness.
Community
is
awareness.
The most important
community
thing.
awareness,
If this is
and
why we're doing what we're doing.
absolutely, yeah.
And another situation that's just come out in the past few days is the one in Tokyo, where 19 people were killed.
Yeah.
By a former employee of their home.
Yeah.
And they're all severely disabled people. Now, he had previously said to someone in government that he wanted to kill all disabled people and had been put in a psychiatric. I always find that word hard to say, facility, and was released after 2 weeks because they thought he was reformed and not a danger to the community. And then months later, he's gone and killed 19 innocent people just because they have disabilities.
Yeah, I mean,
They've done nothing wrong within their community. They just happen to have disabilities, and apparently for that reason they deserve to die.
Yeah.
Which is not the greatest thing. If people thought that, then we wouldn't even be making this show because we'd all be dead. So,
I think it's also important that, in Australia, there are organisations, there has been some horrible stuff happen in the past around sexual abuse and just abuse in services in general. It's a worldwide problem.
There's so much reform that has been done, but there's so much more that needs to be done, which is why I'm glad that this
inquiry,
thank you, is happening, because it says to the community, we'll now put in place things that to stop this happening, and we'll stand up for you. And a lot of people feel like they don't have support to come out and say, I've been raped or I've been sexually assaulted in any way. And then they don't say anything because they don't think they're going to be believed or supported. I have a friend who told me that she experienced that and then felt that she couldn't go out and say anything because she has an intellectual disability. She wasn't going to be believed, or they weren't going to do anything about it. And this spreads wider than just the average community. It spreads. A lot of people think the police aren't going to believe them because they're intellectually disabled, or they're,
there's
physically disabled.
There's programs for, and I don't know what they're exactly called. There's programs in the police that specialise where you can take a person with you as well to any interviews and stuff like that, to help you out, or you can speak to an advocacy organisation.
Yeah.
You can even go to the independent advocate or something like that. But it's a massive issue on that.
Yeah, it totally is. And just to reiterate, if you need to speak to anyone, you can call Beyond Blue on 1300 22 4636. Thank you. Or you can call Lifeline on 13 11 14. And they are great services. They will talk you through it and let you know what's going on. And they can tell you where to go, where to get help if you need that sort of support. They have those sorts of information there. So, we're going to go to a song now. You're listening to Raising Our Voices radio show on 3CR AM Melbourne Radio. Thanks.
Able-bodied Australia does not realise that people with disabilities across the board are being discriminated against. Then the government to demand that we go out and get a job without removing the disincentives like the lack of access to transport and community infrastructure, without providing accessible buildings that can provide barrier-free employment. I'm not getting a fair go, and I don't like it, and I'm saying so.
You're listening to 3CR, 8:55 on the AM dial.
Welcome back to Raising Our Voices on 3CR AM. We're talking about abuse today, and I know I've said it a couple of times in this show, but I feel it's necessary to say that if you need any help, you can call Beyond Blue on 1300 22 4636 or Lifeline on 13 11 14. That's 13 11 14. And if you find this too hard to listen to, just tweak it down for a bit.
Yeah, just switch it over to anything you want. And then
Switch it back.
Switch it back.
3CR is a great station.
Because not only is 3CR the best station around, but we're the bomb presenters. We're good.
By the way, that was Broken Leg by Blue Juice, and I love that song, and I think that's a bit of a light-hearted play on these sorts of things. I'm walking around with slight disability here, but you don't want to know me, and
yeah,
so it's kind of funny, honestly. So I'm glad we were able to bring that to you. And we've just been talking about stories we've heard on abuse, and also we've been talking about the findings in the
inquiry into abuse,
but not necessarily the whole findings, just the organisation's responses on what the findings are. So, that's great, and I'm sure we're able to bring more of this to you later on in the season, maybe. I'm not sure, but I'll work on that. I promise the listeners I'll work on that. So, what else have you got?
I think that it's also important that, abuse is a horrible issue, a horrible thing to have to deal with. And I think it's important that, advocacy plays a massive role in that. I mean, there's huge, advocacy organisations around that
deal with this sort of
with
stuff.
things.
Yeah.
AMIDA is good at it, and there's a lot of different organisations.
One of the greatest ones. But there's also, if you're a young person and you're being abused and you need assistance, call the Youth Disability Advocacy Service. Yeah. Now, they focus on a lot of different issues, but they don't focus on abuse in particular or in housing in particular. They advocate on a lot of different issues, but they have an individual advocate that can help you. So if you want some help and you're a young person and you feel better talking to someone that's younger and they can relate better, call them. They'll give you a hand.
Yeah, they will. Which I should justify that I'm too old now. I used to be part of them, but I'm too old now.
I'm not, thank God. Yeah, where I'm a steering committee member of their organisation, and Luke used to be a steering committee member, so we know that they're a good organisation.
They're very good.
But I'll put the contact details, websites, etc. on the Raising Our Voices Facebook page for anyone who's interested.
Yeah.
Do check that out.
Yeah, because it's a great Facebook page. Yeah.
I work on it, so it's fantastic.
Whoa, fantastic. Woo.
So if you need any information, hit that up. I will get onto it straight away. Mm-hmm. Okay. What else can we cover in this last bit of the show?
What else can we cover? We don't want to.
Apart from talking about how great we are, no, just kidding.
It's. I think also. I mean, there's a lot of different ways that people. I think there's a lot of different ways that people can be abused as well. I think it's important that it's not just sexual; it's financial. It can be emotional. It can be, it can be neglectful. So I think it's important to realise,
neglecting someone is a form of abuse as well. So there's lots of different forms of abuse. So when you think, I'm not being abused because I'm not being physically abused, you could still be being abused if that person is trying to psychologically get in to your head and try and control what you're doing. That is one of the massive ones. I can talk from personal experience because I've experienced psychological abuse, and also to a point that sort physical abuse as well. So from an ex-partner of mine, so I can talk to that. And I can tell you that if you think someone's trying to control what you're doing with your life, that's a form of abuse, and they're not allowed to do that, and they're not allowed to tell you what you can and can't do. They're not allowed to withhold your phone or do anything like that. Sorry, that was my headphones.
Yeah, that was the headphones just falling over, but you're still on air?
Yes, I'm still here.
Yeah.
So
I just want to testify that I haven't had any malfunctions yet. So
testify. Oh no. Okay. Well, you're the greatest then, aren't you?
Yeah, thanks.
Well, we've talked about this lightheartedly, so it doesn't really, hurt anybody that may be listening. But seriously, if you're having trouble, get in touch with somebody, talk to a family member, or maybe if it's a family member that's doing the abusing, because that can happen in the especially financial and emotional abuses. Maybe don't speak to your family members. Speak to a friend or someone external.
Yeah, that's right.
And they can always help you.
Yeah.
It's amazing the amount of support you get from friends, and they can put you onto the right spots. So make sure you contact some person that you really trust and say, hey, can you help me out with this? Because if you really trust them and they're a really good person to you, there's no way they're going to say, no, I can't, go away. They're going to try and help you as much as possible.
Yeah.
Because it's not in your head. It is happening. And you need to speak to someone about it. Unfortunately, that's all we have time for today on Raising Our Voices. Thanks, Luke, for joining me.
Yeah, thanks, Ariane. It's been fantastic. It's been fantastic to work with you.
And stay tuned for Tamil Voices on 3CR AM radio.
See you guys. Stay cool.
Bye.
You've been listening to a 3CR podcast produced in the studios of independent community radio station 3CR in Melbourne, Australia. For more information, go to allthews.3cr.org.au.